All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the 35th Social Studies Teachers Workshop. My name is Al Wheat, and I am the Director of Education here at the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. We are happy to be able to bring you a workshop this year, especially considering the trying conditions. This is our first ever live virtual workshop, so hopefully it goes swimmingly and you find something useful throughout what we cover today. So just to go over a couple of things as we get started. During the sessions, the only time that you will need your audio or video running is when we are in breakout rooms, which will only be in session one. So until that time, feel free to turn your mics and video off. That way we can highlight the speakers for each session and make sure that is who is on screen. If you need any help with that, we can be sure to do that. We have some tech people throughout that are able to turn off video as needed. So, a couple of other things to run through. As I said, we know it's been a trying year this year. This has obviously been a difficult year for everyone. So we wanted to make sure we brought some consistency and still had our fall teachers workshop here in the first weekend in November. We also knew that CEU opportunities would be slim this year. So we wanted to make sure that you had those opportunities to stay certified and stay on top of current trends in education. And hopefully we can provide that for you today. If you have a problem, we do have any issues whatsoever tech wise, we do have several people on staff who will be available to help you with those. And if you look in the chat box or if you look for their name, they will have MDAH Tech in their names. If you can message one of them directly in the chat box, they will help you out with those issues. If you have a bigger issue that can't be handled via chat, feel free to email us at outreachprograms@mdah.ms.gov, which is in the chat box right now. You can just copy and paste that and then email us. We'll be monitoring that email throughout the day and we will try to help you to the best of our abilities with those tech issues. So with that, staff, you can feel free to go ahead and turn the video off except for our first two presenters. Just a couple more notes before we really get rolling here. We will have a sign-in session at the beginning of each session that you attend today. You can see in the chat box that is already up for session one. This is going to be how we verify you for your CEUs. So make sure that you fill out those forms as we do that. And we're going to post those once at the beginning and end of each session. So if you happen to come in a little bit late and don't see the link to the Google form, don't worry. We'll have it again at the end of the session. If for any reason you are in the session and don't get the link, just let us know. We can get that to you if you email us at that outreach programs email. We will have some office hours today. If there's anything you need to chat about or any questions you have that aren't covered in the sessions, we're going to do those immediately after session two. As you can see, we've prepared about an hour and a half for lunch today. Plus, we don't want you just staring at a screen all day. We want you to have some time to get up and move around. So right at the end of session two, we will hang around for a little while for some office hours. So if you have any questions or any concerns, that is a perfect time to reach out to us. A couple of post-workshop reminders. We will on Monday send out an email to you with 3 important things for you to pay attention to. One, it will be a resource sheet that has resources from our vendors throughout the day, or through our presenters throughout the day, as well as some partners that we have throughout the state that provide some quality education resources for you. This is in lieu of what we would usually have in our exhibitor session, where you would get to visit their booths during exhibiting. But since obviously we can't do that this year, we still want to be able to provide you with some resources from those who would normally be vending. Secondly, will be our post-workshop survey. We are going to send it out at the end of the day today so that you can fill it out while you're already here and while it's active on your brain. But if you'd rather wait till Monday, we'll send that out in that email. And then lastly, on that email come Monday, you will receive your CEU form. And all you need to do to get your CEUs is fill out that form, send it with a $10 check to Mississippi College, and they will get you taken care of for your 0.5 CEUs. And all the information about where to send it is on that CEU form. So with that, we're going to get started with session one here, which is MDAH itself. We're going to give you some presentation about some of our digital friendly resources, and then we will go into that. So if we could go to slide 2, please. So the Mississippi Department of Archives and History is the second oldest Department of Archives and History in the nation. We collect, preserve, and provide access to archival resources throughout the state, but that is not all we do. We also administer multiple museum sites throughout the state that you'll see in a little while. And we also oversee the statewide programs for historic preservation, government record management, and publications. And we also house the digital archives, which you're going to see featured pretty heavily in this first session. So without any further ado, I'm going to give it away to our presenters for this first session. We have MDAH Assistant Director of Education, Shira Muroff, and MDAH Student Visits Coordinator, Stephanie King, who are going to give you a lot more detail about what we do here at the department to help you as teachers.
Good morning, everybody. We are excited to be with you this morning. As Al said, we are going to spend this first session this morning talking about what we have to offer and also trying to get some feedback from you about those materials. We know that we're constantly evolving things, especially this year, and so we want to see how we can best help you and other teachers across the state. So today what we're going to do is we are going to start with a little bit of a community building activity. Normally you guys would get to interact in person in our museums, but because we can't do that today, we still want to hear from all of you where you're coming from and how this year has been going. We then are going to kind of go into our digital resources, different things that we offer. And one of those things that we have revamped this year are our learning lanyards that work alongside the digital archives. And so we're going to give you a chance to really deep dive into those in breakout rooms and then come back and debrief, give us some comments, and we'll go from there for the rest of the day. So we are excited to get going with you.
So before we begin our community building activity, I wanted to show you just how many different locations are represented today. We have educators with us today from as far as Texas and Florida, and we also have a wide participation from across the state of Mississippi. So again, as Shira said, welcome to everyone near and far, and we're excited to have each of you with us today. So we wanted to begin with a quick icebreaker so everyone will have a chance to introduce themselves. If you'll click on the link that's posted in the chat, you'll find a quick 2-question poll that we'd like for you to fill out.
It'll be open in just a second.
1 second, I apologize.
No, you're good, but you should be able to at least everybody open it in your browser.
Right. So for the first question, we would like for you to share with us just where you're from, your name and your district. Tell us if you're in person, if you're hybrid, or if you're virtual. I'll give you about a minute to answer that. And if you'd like to see the answers, you can click on the Zoom, and I am sharing the answers that everyone is sharing on the screen.
So I see we have some folks from near the coast. Some people are doing hybrid and virtual right now. Some in-person with virtual options. We've got a mix of some private and public schools. We have some other folks going virtual right now. Some folks from JPS right here in Jackson with us. They've been fully virtual this whole semester. Some people are taking this time off from teaching. We're glad you're still here with us today. Let's see who else. We've got in person with some virtual options. Very cool. For anybody looking for that chat button, there should be a chat at the bottom of the screen that Stephanie is sharing if you're trying to find the chat section on the Zoom. Amazing. We've got folks from Canton. We've got folks from Natchez. Some people are home. Some kids are in school. Greenville.
All right, about 10 more seconds.
Awesome. More JPS folks. South Pike. Awesome. Somebody in the chat saying they're from Hartfield Academy in person right now. Awesome. So I think, yes, so we have a wide variety of people in different styles this year. So we're trying to make things work because we know everybody's in a different situation. So as much flexibility as we can.
Great. So for the next question, head back to the poll using the link in the chat again. And this time, we'd like for you to tell us about some of the successes and challenges you've had in modifying your instruction this year. Share with us one obstacle you faced this year and a success you've had with digital learning. Anything goes. I'll give you another minute to answer. Begin now. And again, if you want to follow along with the responses after you've submitted your answer, head back over to the Zoom screen and you can watch the results as they scroll.
You might need to refresh your browser window, but it should be open. Great, we have some answers coming in. Folks are learning the technology, readjusting for a lack of nonverbal cues. Working on some small groups to stay social distanced. Okay, so yeah, smaller classes are able to build some better relationships with students. Yeah, so possibly some challenges getting parents involved with different things being closed and open and virtual. Some folks in different situations. Right here at work, we're trying to adapt things to work for you guys. Keeping students motivated and engaged. Very cool. Peer coaching and parental involvement. I'm glad that is going so well. Canvas is great, but yes, students can be a little overwhelmed. Awesome. And if you see anybody saying something that kind of speaks to you and seems like something you might want to integrate into your own classroom, feel free to throw in the chat if you want to get connected to somebody else and see how they have been using one of those things or have had that sort of success. Canvas, I saw. Okay, Google Classroom is working for people. Yeah, that definitely sounds tough, dealing with students who are both digital and in person right now. Nearpod, that's cool. I don't know Nearpod. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing all of those. I'm going to dive back into our stuff and show you now what we do have, what we would love to work with you on.
Perfect. So I see we had some great answers there. Thanks everyone for your participation. Next, we want to talk a little bit about the sites that our department offers. The department has 6 historic sites that are open to the public for tours. The Jackson sites are the 2 Mississippi museums, which house the Museum of Mississippi History and the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, the Governor's Mansion, the Old Capitol Museum, which is not currently open to the public, but if you keep an eye out on our website and social media, you'll get updates on when they're going to reopen in the future, and the Eudora Welty House and Garden. There are also 2 historic sites outside of Jackson, Grand Village of the Natchez Indians, which is in Natchez, and Winterville Mounds in Greenville. Right now, the museum at Grand Village is open to the public, but Winterville is not. The grounds are open at both sites, but it would be a great outing for small groups. Information on visiting either of these sites can be found on the department's website. Today's session, we're going to be presenting digital resources the department has to offer for teachers and students. We'll share some of the ones we've had for some time and also some new resources we've created to support the transition to a more digitally based learning environment. To find these resources, go to the MDAH webpage and click on the Teachers and Students tab. Now, we'll be sharing these links with you in a resource sheet, so don't worry about catching the links as we're going through these right now. So our first resource is our traveling trunks. Our traveling trunks are a resource we've had available for some time now. They're a great way to bring historical stories to life in your classroom. Each trunk features a lesson plan on the selected topic, as well as games, crafts, reading materials, and other activities such as reproduced artifacts. Some of the topics we have include the Walter Anderson trunk and the Mississippi River trunk, which focus on the heritage of the Mississippi River Delta. This one would be a great for teachers teaching topics such as geography, economics, and transportation. It includes mapping activities and also has an activity where students can compose their own blues songs. Our trunks are free of charge and can be picked up at the department if you're local, or if you would like, we can ship them to you and you just pay the cost of the return shipping. One of our newer resources that we've been working on developing is our distance learning program. We have two programs that are currently available to support distance learning. The first is Scenes from Mississippi History video series. These videos are available on YouTube and are great short videos to support Mississippi Studies learning. Each film is around 4 to 7 minutes long and covers topics such as the Tuvalu Nine and Mississippi's role in the Mexican-American War. There's also a series of videos to support the two Mississippi Museum's temporary exhibit, Mississippi Distilled, that focuses on Mississippi's Prohibition era. So they would make great bell ringers since they do have discussion questions down below in the description box of each video. Next, we have our virtual field trips program. This offers staff-led tours through the galleries of the two Mississippi museums and sometimes features special appearances by scholars. Currently, we're offering a series in honor of Native American Heritage Month in partnership with the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. Virtual field trips are $40 per class and are available on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, but this program is supported by our Day at the Museum School Visits program, and scholarships are available for Mississippi Title I schools.
Okay, here we go. So one of the programs that we run as a department that we love is Mississippi History Day. So Mississippi History Day is our state chapter of a national competition called National History Day. You can think about it as almost a science fair, but for history. It gives students in grades 6 through 12 the chance to really deep dive and do research on a topic of their choice, as well as a project modality of their choice. So each year has a theme. This year's theme is communication in history, the key to understanding. And so they get to pick anything that can relate to that. And as you see, that's so broad, and it works more than just for history classes. We have English teachers that do History Day. We even have science and math teachers that are involved. And what's cool is we try to also get them involved in Mississippi topics specifically, if that works within your class curriculum. So we've actually started, and every year we will create a list of the Mississippi topics that fit under that theme. And students, like you can see this gentleman on the screen, made a very cool exhibit for the project that year, but students also are able to make, do research papers, make a website, make a documentary, do a performance, or do an exhibit. And so there's a lot of variety in getting students engaged in different ways that work for them, as well as work for your classroom. So what we're doing right now is we have thrown an interest sheet into the chat box. Getting involved in History Day is an amazing opportunity for both you and your schools, really getting to have them learn about primary, secondary sources, do some writing, do some project creation. This year also, our state competition is completely virtual, which also gives you some more flexibility in terms of trying it out. If you are interested in us reaching out to you to just see if you are interested, learn a little bit more of the program, no commitment, just fill in your name and email on that interest form, and we'll reach out to you after the workshop. So that's in the chat. The Department of Archives and History is also a partner of the Mississippi Historical Society. So the Mississippi Historical Society provides a lot of things that can be very beneficial for teachers. For example, they have an amazing resource called Mississippi History Now, as you'll see on the screen, that screenshot. And this is a set of scholarly articles about different topics. But the nice thing for teachers is at the bottom of every article, there is a lesson plan to go along with it that's written by an educator. If you become a member of the Historical Society, you also will receive the Journal of Mississippi History multiple times a year. There's also an annual meeting that goes on in the winter or spring every year for the society. And they also have a Teacher of the Year that they honor. Right now is actually a time that you can start nominating teachers for this Teacher of the Year. You can nominate yourself, you can nominate somebody you work with, somebody you know, and there is a cash prize that comes with that alongside recognition at the annual meeting, and some other benefits. So definitely check that out on their website if you're interested in nominating either yourself or somebody you know for this opportunity. And again, you'll get these links in a resource sheet at the end of this session and after the workshop. Awesome. So just like today, we love providing professional development for teachers across the state, as well as we're always happy to welcome folks from outside the state. We have our traditional workshops that we've now been adapting to more digital, but we also like to do networking events for teachers. And so we're going to be figuring out how to do that in the future. As you've seen, we've also looped you into our educator email. I know you've gotten some more emails from us than normal this week leading up to the workshop, but usually it's only twice a month. And so we don't want to barrage you, but twice a month, giving you opportunities for professional development or student events coming up or other resources for you in your classroom is what we like to provide. And on our website, you'll see that we have past presentations from teachers' workshops so that you can continue to learn from those scholars. And that's also where you will find the information from today will be later uploaded to that site to access in the future. I don't think we have any questions in the chat box, so we are going to move on to our next section. Feel free to throw any questions you do have though in the chat box throughout the day, and we will answer them periodically.
So our digital archives has been updated along with our new website, and they're both much more user-friendly. These collections that we have available feature government records, historic papers and documents, and photographs and more. We have collections from Eudora Welty and the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission, just to name a few. So to access these collections, you'll select the digital archives link on the teachers and students page, and it'll lead you to the main page for the digital archives. Here's a snapshot of what the digital archives look like when you access them. Each one has an index of the information featured. Each item is assigned a number and a description explaining what it is. You're able to browse and access the entire collection from our webpage, and our activity letter will show you just how easy they are to use. Our learning lanyards are an excellent way to teach students how to use our digital archives for research. For those teachers that are participating or interested in participating in Mississippi History Day, this is a great way to teach your students how to navigate the archives to find primary resources. The learning lanyards are 2 to 4 page activities that can be completed in groups or individually by students. We're currently working to revise and update the lessons, and here's a list of the ones that we have available currently. These are mostly, of course, for high school and middle school students, so 6th through 12th grade, but we are adding some other activities for kindergarten through 5th grade students in the near future. So when you access each of the lanyards, you'll see there's a teacher version and a student version. The teacher version includes curricular connections and activity answers. The student version is a fillable PDF form that students can download, they can type in their answers, save, and also upload through their learning platforms.
So what is going to happen right now is we're going to give you the chance to really deep dive into these. So what's going to happen is we are going to break up into breakout rooms. There is going to be 5 groups. And so one group will each be looking at one of our new 5 lanyards. And then the slide that you're going to work on, that we're going to send to you, you want to jump and just work in the slide that corresponds to your breakout room. Okay, I'm going to back up and explain that again because I jumped a step. So we are going to have 5 groups. One each is going to look at one of the lanyards. So there are lanyards about the 1927 flood, a collection about Freedom Summer, health department photos from the 1930s, oral histories from the Civil Rights Movement, and some World War I service cards. Everybody in our whole workshop is going to be collaborating on one large Google slide set. So what's going to happen though is you'll be thrown into a breakout room And for example, if you're in breakout room number 5, you only want to be putting your group's answers on slide number 5. So each group will have a slide that they're working on, looking just like this. So you'll see if you're in group 1, just focus on this one that'll say group 1, slide 1, and you want to work together to answer these 4 questions using information from the Lanyapps. So just go to that top link when you get into your group. I would suggest that you as a group decide on somebody who's the note taker, who also might be able to share their screen, and so you guys can collaborate. But feel free to do it in whatever way works for you. When you go onto the website, as Stephanie had mentioned, there are teacher and student versions for the Lanyapps. For this activity, we would suggest you look at the teacher ones because that'll show you the answers and everything that we're providing. But feel free to also look at the student ones if you want so that you see how those look. We will have 15 minutes in these rooms. There will be a staff person that'll pop in and out to see if you have any questions, help, just hear how it's going. We really want your guys' feedback. And we will give you a 2-minute warning when things also need to kind of wrap up. As you are working and compiling your feedback, know that when we come back, we're going to want to hear from you and hear what you thought about different things, how else you would want to use these primary sources in your classroom. So we'll ask for some feedback in the chat later. So think about who maybe will be the one to share or what you guys would like to share from us from these different boxes. So we have posted the link to the Google Doc in the chat right now. So you can open it right now if you're able to, but know, and I'll give you a couple seconds to do that, but know that we will also post this link in the chat when you get into your breakout room. A staff person will come in and throw that link in for you again. So don't worry if you're not able to open it. And again, send us any questions that you have during this process, but we'll give you some time to be in these groups, work on this and chat with each other. When you're in the breakout rooms, please unmute yourself, turn your camera on if you're able to, chat with the other teachers, hear how they're doing. We want this to be a chance to, chat with each other like you normally would get to. Okay, so we are going to break up into these rooms. We'll give you the links again, and we will see you soon. Hi, everybody. Welcome back from your breakout rooms. Thank you all for sharing what you were able to. Let me pull up my stuff. Well, we hope you had some interesting times looking at some of those documents. I know there's some very cool photos or documents or just different questions to ask your students. So now we would love to hear from you. Everybody, now that we're out of breakout rooms, should have an easier time finding the chat box again. So right now it should be on the bottom of your screen if you're on a computer, possibly to the right of your screen if you are on a tablet. But here's what we are going to do is I would love to hear from some of the different groups, some of the things you thought. So the first one is from the group that was looking at the flood Lanyap. What was something you guys were thinking of a way to use this Lanyap in your classroom? Let's broaden this out. So folks who are either in the flood or the Speak Now groups, we would love if you could throw something in the chat of how do you think you could be using these documents in your classroom? So I'll give you a chance to think and type something of those. For the group that was looking at the phoner papers, if you would like to share something, another way that you could use this digital collection, so something else you could do with the phoner papers. Folks who are looking at the health department, if you want to think about sharing another collection you'd love seeing turned into a Lanyap. And my folks who are in the World War I, just any other feedback you guys have. So really, if something from those questions that we just posed, or really something people are thinking after that experience, we'd love to hear how you could use these collections, what you guys are thinking, something you maybe learned about your collection that folks in other groups should know about. Okay, thank you, Barry. Barry said, have students examine photos, write about what they observe, write what they think the experience would be like. That is definitely very cool. Alexandria, thank you. Yes, about the phoner papers. Students could examine the photos and documents in groups, in person or digital, and share and discuss their observations together. Yeah, we really tried to make this friendly for both students who would be in person together as well as students who might be working digitally. Thank you, Dina. When teaching geography, I'm going to show how flooding affects an area. We'll compare flooding in China to flooding in the US. That's very cool. And we have some other collections also that deal with different hurricanes or just different storms and other like natural disasters. Obviously, that's always a sensitive subject in some regard, but it could be very interesting, and there's some interesting photographs. I know there are digital collections from Hurricane Camille and Katrina also in the digital collections. Okay, Shannon is saying, you know, I have to teach how to explain informational text after it's been read. So reading and researching this and writing about it, explaining it as a way to write across the curriculum. Very cool. Summer says, using the collection Speak Now, which is about freedom riders, for those of you who weren't in the group, as a way for students to gather evidence around a central historical question as well as student activism. That's awesome. I'll give you guys another second to throw in any thoughts you guys had. One resource that I was talking with my group about was the worksheets that the National Archives has. They could definitely be used alongside these lanyards. And so they have great resources both for younger and older students to analyze photographs or written documents. And so you could definitely use those as a jumping off point for some general analysis and then look at some deep dive questions with the lanyards. Observe, reflect, question. That is very cool. We definitely want to be saving all these notes, y'all. World War I, putting yourself in the photo and writing about your experience. Very cool. Awesome. I'm glad, Charlotte, that you were able to learn stuff about the photo collection. I know in our group, some folks were also sharing about World War I is that even if you don't have to necessarily teach about that war in your class, learning about the selective service is a good way to just bring in stuff into general, any civics conversation. Cool. Let's see about 30 more seconds, see if anybody has any other thoughts. I'm glad. Oh, here, let's see. Yes, sixth grade civics. Didn't mean to just kind of spoil some of your comment. Yeah, so that point about the selective service, and yes, drawing connections to historical events and using the digital files for DBQs in sixth grade. 1927 flood would be used as part of a discussion on the Great Migration and how African Americans fled Mississippi shortly afterwards due to their treatment during this time. Yeah, and the cool thing about this is, especially with the ones we have right now, is a lot of them kind of tied together thematically, thinking about the flood and different things in the civil rights movement. Even World War I, we have other questions that examine social things that were going on at the time. Amazing. Well, thank you guys for all these comments. Feel free to put anything else in here you want us to know. And as I said to the group earlier, if you think of anything else or another collection that you really would like to see turned into a worksheet, feel free to email us after this. Feel free to put it in that Google slide that you still have access to. We're going to be collecting all this data and thinking about what we want to do next in our next batch of activities. So we're going to keep going, but feel free to throw more things in this chat and we will take all of these comments into consideration.
All righty, so first we want to thank everyone for your participation today. We hope you have enjoyed our session and learned a little bit about the resources that we have to offer. Just for reference, here's the information, how you can find us on the web and on social media. And you can follow us for updates and information on all of the MDAH sites, Mississippi History updates, and other information. Here shortly, we'll be uploading the resource sheet that I mentioned earlier in the chat box, and it'll also be included in the email that you'll be receiving on Monday. So be on the lookout for that email because it will have a survey for today's program as well as your CEU form. And just as another reminder, if you need to contact one of us today, please email us at the outreach programs email there at the bottom. And we'll be monitoring that inbox all day. So if you need any info, if you've lost a link or anything else, just let us know. Do we have any questions or comments in the chat that need to be addressed, Michael? No. Great. So the next session will begin at 9:45. Don't forget to sign in using the link that we just posted in the chat. You can sign in, I guess, for this session as well as for the other session. And then the link for that session can be found in the chat box or in that email that we sent you yesterday with the program details. So if no one has anything else, we want to thank you guys again for participating and joining us today. And we will see you very soon in session 2.
Give us 1 second and we will also throw that resource sheet in for you. One moment. Okay, there is the resource page. So yes, thank you, and we will see you later.